Welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who took third place in the 1976 F1 Championships. It's John Levingood.
Okay, so I'm just wondering, me in that car at my weight, and I still took third place?
You had a great car, John. And also, you were a little bit younger. You were a little bit leaner.
Okay, because if you were in the same car as me, you'd come in first place.
just by weight ratio? We drive the exact same way the entire time. But how's it feel, man? I mean, the 1976, 1975 Niki Lauda wins. 1976, you have the epic competition between them, between James Hunt, Niki Lauda. But you're in third place, man. How does that feel? Like, you weren't that far behind them either. You still did a pretty good job.
I'd be pretty stoked, man. But honestly, if I'm putting a dose of reality in it, I'd just be glad that I didn't die.
Yeah.
I mean, Niki Lauda, when he's talking his game, and I had to like listen to it again. I'm like, wait a minute, did he say that he's okay with a 20% chance of dying in any race?
Yeah. So you know what's interesting? I read about that. So this movie, man, I guess with us, F1 isn't that big in this country. We kind of have NASCAR. And are you into NASCAR racing at all?
No.
All right, so I actually got into racing when I watched the documentary Senna. I absolutely loved it, and my uncle Jeff is huge into racing. I kind of started like figuring out how big F1 was actually in the world. And after watching Rush and reading all of the articles about it, I mean, people had a lot of stuff to say about this film. There are articles after articles of, did they get this right? Was that true? Was that not true? Is this true? And I read an article about that where he's talking about the 20% chance, and they asked him about it. And in an annoying way, Lauda said it's a rhetorical statement rather than a precise statistical calculation, which sounds exactly like something Lauda would say in regards to that comment. And then someone did some math behind it, and they said that in the beginning of the season, there was a 0.35% chance of dying, and it jumped up to a 4.4. And they said 8 people died in the 60s, 9 people died in the 70s, but they didn't include all the racing accident, like behind the scenes, the testing accidents. So, yeah, I mean, it was super dangerous, but I loved reading all these articles that they're like, well, it's not a right statement, but it's a very dangerous sport. But it's still, like, it's a crazy dangerous sport, man. This was, and it's nuts.
So we're going to get to the hindsight comparisons later, right? Because this is really just lap one of our Race Pod series.
Yep.
When we get to other movies. But when I think back to the other like very race-centric movies like Days of Thunder, Driven, well that one a little less for what I'm gonna say, but and Ford v Ferrari, like these movies, even if they don't go out of their way to make a big spectacle of the looming risk, even if they don't focus on the suffering or the horror of an accident, just when they show you one tangentially, you're like, oh shit, like, you know, I kind of lock up. I'm like, this is such a dangerous sport.
I mean, you're going 100 plus miles, more than that, on a hairpin turn. One thing happens, you have a bunch of jet fuel in your car, you're going to blow up. You're going to catch on fire. You'll flip. You'll get hurt.
When you're racing, though, and you're trying to overtake someone, if they go to cut you off a little bit, like that could create a horrible accident.
Yeah. And the way these guys were back then. I read something interesting. Since 1994, no F1 driver has died during a race. So this is during the heyday of, so there's a scene in this movie where James Hunt, we're going to the end, where Hunt beats up a guy for asking some really horrible questions to Niki Lauda after he gets burnt, and Hunt goes in there and beats the daylights out of the reporter. That never happened. That's a fictional account. But there are videos of Hunt just getting out of his car, punching drivers. He punched a guy that was like a marshal on one of the courses. So they're getting out of the cars, they're punching each other, they're going fast, people are dying. It was a gnarly sport back then. I wonder if I guess that's kind of part of the appeal of watching it, right? Is just seeing what would happen, who would spin out, who would wipe out.
Yeah, I mean, just think of the risk taker mindset of the people getting into this sport too.
And I gotta tell you, man, I think, this movie only had a $35 million budget.
I have trouble believing that.
Yeah, and so that blew me, man, that blew my mind, because they filmed over in England, which is also more expensive than filming in the States. There's They filmed during the day. That like they've also started filming in March when there's less daytime hours. So they went from March to, let's see, they went like 3 months. So March, April, May, through that time, really cold weather. And they only had $35 million. Now, most of the races, they went to Nuremberg to get some plates to kind of learn to film it. They also went to one other course, but all this was filmed in England for $35 million. And that just blows my mind how cheap they were able to do that for. Because they were calling this an indie movie. For all intents and purposes, it's an indie movie.
That's okay. So when I was watching this, a thought occurred to me. Now, I never would have guessed that the budget was even as low as twice what you're suggesting. I always thought this was a big budget movie, but I did notice that most of the shots, most of the scenes focus on, I mean, this would be any movie, but I mean, disproportionately focus less, in my opinion, on the race scenes and more on the in the car scenes, the driver's face, narrow shots where it's just the blurred thing of what they're seeing in front of them. So of course they're not these big epic scale set or stunt shots. I don't feel like there's the level of like wide angle racing or race action that I'd see in the other movies. It didn't seem super low to me, but it was just low enough that I felt like this was more of a character piece movie than a racing movie, you know? Whereas the other movies, even Days of Thunder, while it's a character movie, it still feels mostly like a racing movie to me. The focus is on the action scenes of the racing, right? Even Talladega Nights does a lot of it.
Yeah, all those movies had double the budget of Rush.
That's so weird to me. God, I never would have. But it makes sense. Like as you're saying it, I'm putting it together. I'm slowly coming to peace with this 35. That's impressive though. Like, right? I mean.
Oh yeah. I mean, for this film, and so what I did was, well, here's the thing: Ron Howard, Steven Spielberg, Ridley Scott. These are guys who can make. So if you look at the budget of War Horse. It was not an expensive film to make. Let me look that up real quick. War Horse. But
no, I didn't see War Horse. Who was the star of War Horse?
Well, that was Steven Spielberg. They cast a young kid, but they had Benedict Cumberbatch. They had Tom Hiddleston. That's a $65 million movie. But I was convinced it was 120. So I think directors like Ron Howard, directors like Steven Spielberg, the people they work with expect professionalism, and that's what everyone said on a Ron Howard film. You're there to work. You're there to be creative, and they also did something very smart in the pre-production. They did a lot of pre-production in this film to develop the look because they knew they didn't have much money. So they had to script everything and get everything prepped. So when they shot, they weren't wasting any time. And they hired this guy called Anthony Dodd Mantle, who won an Academy Award for Slumdog Millionaire. But I want to read the other movies he's worked on. He worked on 28 Days Later, Antichrist, Millions, 127 Hours, Dread, and In the Heart of the Sea. And so they also went and hired a production designer who, let's see, his name is Mark Digby. He worked on Slumdog Millionaire, Ex Machina, Annihilation, and Dread. And if you look at their budget, Slumdog Millionaire, $15 million. Dread, $45 million. Rush, $35 million. And Ex Machina, $15 million. And these are all beautiful movies to look at. Really well done on a budget.
It's interesting you say those movies because I was going to ask you a question just about movie making that I don't know. But to build to that, so like Slumdog Millionaire, that had a very almost clay-colored light sheen to it in a lot of the scenes, right? Mm-hmm. And then 127 Hours was just bright blues and yellows of the desert, right? And so a lot in the Heart of the Sea, that was a dark grayish blue sheen over most of the scenes, I guess because of the storms but I mean, just when you're looking at Chris Hemsworth's face, right?
Yeah.
And this movie, so all those had a very stylistic color, I don't know what to call it, almost like a color filter look. Like Furious 7 had a very warm filter, yellow, blaring sun look. This movie had a very toned down version of that, like a desert yellow gold sheen to it. And when you were talking about like building the style of the movie, this movie definitely has a look to it. And I feel like a lot of movies of this ilk don't. They're just crisp, like a Michael Bay action movie.
Do you want to hear something dorky as far as how the look was achieved?
Okay.
All right, so they knew when they were shooting there'd be a lot of inclement weather. And the different areas they were shooting that like they wanted to recreate the races, so they needed a lot of sun. So what they did was in the pre-pro meetings, Anthony Dodd Mantle got with Ron Howard and he talked about the look of the film. He wanted it to look kind of like that orangey tint, like the flashback. You know, he wanted it to seem like it's the 70s, give it that vibe. And he used a lot of color grading, which is like the process you like improve it, the image for presentation. Like, okay, so you watch Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? When they shot it, it was all green. It was green as Ireland, but they color graded it to look like Dust Bowl. Like you fix it in post. And they shot in a raw format, which means they capture everything. None of it's compressed. So in the edit, they can really manipulate it because none of it's been altered in there. So that's what they decided early on. And what they did was they wanted that tint on purpose, which is color grading and the production design and costumes. And then also, I don't know if you noticed this, but they had no time. They couldn't wait for a cloud cover. So they had to give that kind of tint just to achieve a style that they could shoot all the way through. So there are scenes when you watch this movie early on when they're in F3, when if you look at Chris Hemsworth's head, if you look at Natalie Dormer's head, there's lights bombing on them in the background.
Yeah.
So on this set, they always had a bunch of forklifts or you know, different boom lifts, all these kind of things with massive 18K lights on them. And what they would do was if it was overcast, they would just bomb the lights down to kind of defeat the sky. And so because they didn't have time to wait for any of the shots. So the color grading helped a lot with the inclement weather, like the overcast days, and then the lights just bombed down, and then through that they combined to get this look of the film because they knew they couldn't wait because of the budget.
So I also noticed that this look made me think of movies of the era of the period of this movie. Because it's like whether you're talking about Mad Max, right, or old Westerns. Now, of course, they're in the desert, so you think of those colors. But then you think of the Dirty Harry series, which is it's not nearly as blaringly so. But there is this yellowish, light brown, straw-colored kind of scene presence. Is that just film grittiness, or is that also a deliberate look?
So it's digital, but one interesting thing that they did was, along with the color grading, they used these things called Baltar lenses. They use a lot of prime lenses where, you know, that you can't go in and out, you can't do the zooming. But these Baltar lenses were used on The Godfather. They were used on movies from that time. And so sometimes they had to get a mallet out to help pull the focus rings. These lenses were so old. So they used the old lenses with the digital camera to achieve that look.
Oh my God. Can we just tangent on looks, by the way?
Yeah.
So I remember when this movie was being advertised, right? And Chris Hemsworth was doing the talk show circuit, like back in probably late 2012. And people were interviewing him about this movie that's coming out. But of course he had done Thor shortly before it. And in the first Thor, if people remember this, he was as inflatedly, muscularly huge as he's ever been in his life. He actually gets smaller in each Thor movie, because I guess they were less concerned with him being so shockingly huge anymore. He was already like an icon. But in the first movie, he was gigantic. And then I think it was Ron Howard or someone told him, it's like, look, we're going to give you this part, but I can't have the Thunder God step on set. You need to look like James Hunt. So I remember hearing that he was like just dieting and running on treadmills 3 times a day to try and eat away all this muscle on his body. And then later he's going to go, puff back up for Thor. But he made a big, big change for this movie.
Yeah, Ron Howard didn't want him. And so I read a Ron Howard interview. He's like, he's too big. And Hemsworth started losing the weight on his own. And he sent in these audition tapes that he didn't have to send in, because he was campaigning for this movie hardcore. So he went on his own regimen to lose the weight to prove to Ron Howard that he could get skinny.
So he did a reverse Christian Bale American Psycho.
Yes. And I love it though. I mean, if you look at James Hunt and you look at Chris Hemsworth in these movies, it's such a great match. And what's interesting enough is this movie also had German backing to it. And they did not want Daniel Bruhl. They wanted an American to do a bad German accent and play Niki Lauda. And the whole time, Ron Howard was just, no, guys, no, lost his mind over that. And so he fought for Bruhl, and he didn't want Hemsworth in the beginning.
Why would did they want an American actor just to try and make more money and have a more recognized actor?
Yeah, I mean, so you have you have excellent, everyone knows Daniel Bruhl in 2012 is an excellent actor. He had done it Inglourious Basterds, several other films. Everyone knew he was an actor's actor. but he didn't open picture. And, you know, you're making these movies, you're thinking money. You want money. You know, American audiences this movie made about 25 million in the States, which is not a lot. It made more internationally because it's more of an international sport. So you're thinking, we don't have much of a chance in America, so we want an American big name actor in here. Mm-hmm. And so that's what they fought for. But eventually they're like, we're stupid. This is Daniel Bruhl. He's incredible.
Boy, was he incredible.
Yeah, this movie, man, I remember watching this in 2013, and I think I messaged you. You wrote a review for it way back like 7 years ago, and I messaged you, and I was talking to Megan. We were just like, he's getting a nomination, Oscar nomination, something. Like he embodies this character. You watch interviews with Niki Lauda, and you look at pictures, and he is just him. Just this character. I love the accent. I think he nailed the accent, the way he did all that. I bought into the character. And when he didn't, it hurt, man. I think I'm still salty about him not getting that nomination for it. But yeah, I think Bruhl was perfect in it. And the more I watch Hemsworth and the more interviews that I see because Bruhl was lucky enough to talk with Lauda. He was lucky enough to interview with him because Lauda died last year. However, James Hunt died of a heart attack when he was 45. And so all Hemsworth had was B-roll footage of him. He watched a lot of him during his announcing career to get his kind of mannerisms. And I'm much more impressed with Hemsworth. So Bruhl still steals the show, but I like his Hemsworth performance a lot now, knowing that much more about Hunt. Like, he nails his mannerisms in this film. And all the stuff that they do, the barefoot, walking around, then you have the stewardesses. He said he slept with over 5,000 women throughout his life. The puking before, that's everything he did. Like, they both embody these characters really well.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Hemsworth, but I mean, yeah, Bruhl is not knowing any of the backstory. Bruhl is the champion actor of this movie. I'm just going with what I'm seeing on screen.
Absolutely. And I think my favorite moment in this film is when he first meets his wife-to-be, and they get into a car, and he's driving really slow. And he's like, I don't see any reason to drive fast. There's no reason to drive fast. And she's like, well, I want you to. He's like, do you always get what you want? She's like, yeah. And so Marlene was the woman. And then when he drives fast, but the reaction on the Italian guy's face.
Oh, my God. So, by the way, this whole scene is my favorite scene of the entire movie.
Just the pure joy on their faces that Niki Lauda is driving their car fast. It's just the joy of the scene. And I like that it speaks characters about a lot. It speaks a lot about his character, because at first I'm not risking it, but he does love that kind of high, and she goaded him into it, and then he did it. Like, it's such a live scene. I love how they filmed that.
Yeah, no, that scene was so fun, and even the lead up too, where he couldn't get someone hitchhiking when the car busted, and even leading up to that, him just introducing his mindset about cars to her and her not buying it. Then they're broken down. He fails to get to hitch a ride. So she says, maybe you should let me handle this. She goes over. The guys slam on the brakes after they pass him, and she thinks it's because and then they walk right past her. It's like, excuse me, signore, are you Niki Lauda? Like, yeah. It's just like right there. He's like, oh yeah. And he's just totally like, yeah, I am. They're like, oh my God, I knew it. They're freaking out. And I don't know. I feel like this would be me if like Ryan Reynolds walked past me at a bar.
It's like when Dolph Lundgren walked past me, right?
Right. If I was sitting next to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson ordering drinks or something, I just like I wouldn't be able to control myself. Like, those are like some of the actors I'd fall apart for. But they were having a great time sitting in the back seat, even just listening to him bicker about why there's no reason to drive fast. They're just saying, oh gosh, no one's gonna believe Niki Lauda drove my car, and then they go fast. And dude, their face. Remember in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, when the two mechanics steal the car and they go over that hill, and like in the air with those faces of pure joy and excitement, like that was these guys.
Yeah, that's such a live scene, and this movie has a lot of that. I loved it, and I'm getting very technical here and kind of geeky, but I also love. I don't know if you noticed this, but in the beginning, when you're introduced to the two characters, what the director wanted to do was, since Lauda is so technical and so intelligent, he framed them in very linear shots where the cameras, there's not much movement. Maybe there's you put the camera on a slider, or you put it on some sticks or a dolly, but it's never off, like it's never handheld. But when you go to Hemsworth, it's the camera's on someone's shoulders and there's a lot of movement, and there's going up and down, and it's kind of unpredictable. when you watch this film, they distinctly have two different ways that they're shot. I don't know if you ever picked up on that. Very subtle.
Definitely didn't know.
Yeah, very, very, very subtle. But once you hear it from the director and you start looking at some of the shots, so he wanted Hemsworth to seem like he was gonna like explode like an animal in the cage. Like he was like they pushed him into the frame and they followed him and they moved him around. But with Lauda, they just kind of had, like shots with him, little tracking shots. Nothing a lot of movement. It's like if Sam Raimi from Evil Dead filmed Hemsworth, and then, someone just put sticks on and Kubrick filmed Niki Lauda. So I thought that was kind of a cool thing. So maybe when you watch it, but I love their introductions to the characters. He's sitting in his car talking about how stupid he is, and then you meet Hemsworth with a bloody nose, bare feet. It's a really neat way to introduce the characters too. I dug that in like the way that they established them right off the bat. So when you and I knew nothing about these guys when we watched this movie in 2013, did you get the full story of this? Did you feel like you knew exactly what was going on? You didn't have to know anything about F1?
I want to say yes. I'm sure that if I knew about F1, it all would have been richer for me, right?
Yeah.
But even still, so I just saw this movie with my dad because we ate lunch in downtown St. Pete, and we felt like seeing a movie, and it was starting soon. I saw the trailers and I knew it looked like a beautiful movie, right? Yeah. And I thought this was going to be a cool movie. So we just went to see it. And this is one of those things, and I felt the same thing way back then as I feel now. And that's that, how sometimes, well, you would have a better eye than me, but sometimes people see a movie and they're just like, I don't know what it is that makes this spectacular, but I can tell that this is a masterpiece. Like, I don't know why. I don't know it's because of these light filter things. I don't know if it's because of the camera work or the set design, but like I can't pick out what it is. But this movie impressed me more than the scenes or the actors themselves. Like the whole product seemed magnificent. And this is a movie where my dad and I just looked at each other in the theater multiple times at some of these shots and some of these scenes, just went, whoa. Or like the Italians, but even that little scene, which is inside of a car mostly, right? It's less outside the car than in. And we just looked at each other like with this face, this big smile of like, wow, like what a great scene. And this is one of those movies. Remains of the Day might be an Oscar-winning Anthony Hopkins movie, but that movie is brilliant by virtue of its writing and its acting. It is not, in my opinion, it doesn't impress upon me scene by scene. Whereas this movie, most of the scenes had impact beyond the words and the players in them. And so that really wowed me. So again, like I might not have known anything about Formula One, but Ron Howard, man, his brush can still paint such a picture that I don't need to know art history to know why this matters today.
Yeah, I think this sounds weird, but I think the $35 million budget helped because they had to get super creative. And I think that made it more kinetic in the job.
So I have a film business question, Mark. Yeah. So let's say that I'm a no-name director and I'm given $35 million, right? Like I got a short film award and now someone's giving me, the big movie, right? And I have $35 million. But then Ron Howard is given $35 million to make the same film. Does he have an easier time getting better and more experienced crews for his dollar than I do? Does he have people jumping to work at even a lower rate because it's a Ron Howard movie than with me? Is he getting people putting in the extra effort? In other words, is he also, without even having to try, because he's Ron Howard, because he's proved himself over and over again, is he getting kind of $50 million out of his $35 million?
I would say he's getting $70 million out of the 35.
What I mean? Like, he's getting more out of it. He doesn't have to try and get people to choose his project over this other project that's the same amount, the same pay. He's winning that bid, if you will. That's obviously helping him.
Yeah, I think right? One thing that would really help him is he would be able to get it done much quicker because he had been nominated he had already won an Oscar for Best Director. He had won an Oscar for Beautiful Mind. He had made Apollo 13. He had done Willow. He had been there, done that. So just him knowing, and also he produced it. Him and Brian Grazer, they're the ones who got the money for it. So he's going to, if you're a young director and you're not producing it or finding the money, you don't understand that money as well. So you're not worried about the previs because you don't have that experience. You're not worried about it. You're kind of, does that make sense? He's going to get these people because he's just done it, been there, done that, and he has that name in the industry. So I'd rather give, I see sometimes why these second-time directors get $200 million movies, because there's so many people breathing down their throats, they really don't have much of a say. But on a $35 million movie, you could probably have more creative freedom, and that would help Ron Howard every time.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's super industry-y, but that's just my thoughts.
But again, anyone who sees this movie, because you go back 10, 20 years, it wasn't as much public knowledge. It wasn't as much publicly discussed outside of the industry people and the movie fanatics, budgets.
Yeah.
I feel like I didn't understand much about budgets, 10, 15 years ago. I just knew that at the time Waterworld had the biggest budget, I knew random trivia. But I think that if you put any audience today in front of that movie today and even just called it a 2020 movie, they'd still be baffled, even if you adjusted it for inflation when you told them the budget. They'd be certain that had to be higher because, Avengers had this and then this other movie had this and this movie had, they know so much. I feel like this would just wow people.
And it's not even a short movie. The credits are 12 minutes at the end, but an hour and 50 minutes to be 35 million. That's gnarly, dude. That's why I researched The Living Daylights about this movie. And so I watched it. I love talking about just the different moments and all the great scenes, but I also, I went in depth to learn how they did this for so cheap. So I love having an understanding of this movie. But yeah, it still holds up today, for sure. The performances, the lighting, they establish the mood. And I also think since it's a period piece and there's no mention of Twitter or any of that kind of stuff, it will help it age even better, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, and all right, so this is pretty cool, too, as far as the racing. And I worked with a lot of cars when I was in the industry, and I loved hearing about this. So remember in the beginning when he's doing F3 racing?
Yeah.
They couldn't afford a lot of F1 cars from the 1970s because there's not that many. They had to get private collectors, but they dressed up F3 cars as F1 cars. And they had this thing called the Mule that was a race car, and they attached cameras all over it. And those cameras just that car drove fast behind all the race cars on second unit to get all those shots. And I also know, I don't know if you noticed this during the first race, they would put cameras on the weirdest spots on the cars. So the director didn't want to put the cameras in stock spots. So they put the cameras in places where they would attach a GoPro S camera or a C300. The key grips would rig it onto the race car. And what it would do is there's a scene where Chris Hemsworth looks into his rearview mirror, and then you see the rearview mirror moving because they're going so fast. And that's what the camera caught. So, and very cheaply, they're able to establish speed in this movie. So this smart moves all around. I'm a nerd for this movie. Jeez Louise. But yeah, they made very intelligent choices on how to film it because they knew they didn't have much time. And those choices make it look all the more kinetic, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then just, I guess to round around to the characters, the characters, those two actors who, when you look at what they've done, you'd never think they could exist in the same universe on screen, these actors, and yet they developed such a personable, lived-in chemistry. They really.
Yeah.
I don't have siblings, but it almost felt to me like a competitive older and younger brother. Maybe they're half brothers, even. I don't know. Where they do hate things about each other, but they don't actually hate each other.
And they made each other better. And he did do that. He did do that shifty thing on him though when he said his car was illegal. But I guess that's in the rules, right? But
I think that's more of a thing about Lauda than a thing about their relationship.
Yeah, and even Hunt laughed it off. I saw a real interview. He's like, "Well, that's just Lauda."
But what was it? Even the first. It's hardly a scene, but the first shots, right? Right before we really are introduced to the characters, like you said, Hunt in his bare feet and Lauda in his scene. It was before the race where he's saying did he change to wet tires? Okay, then we're not changing either. So there's but that was less, I think, fear of the other one rather than respect for the decision.
Yeah.
And trust it. You know what? Yeah, He didn't change to wets. Okay. And then there's another time in the movie where the other one asks what the opposite one did in a similar situation. Mm-hmm. And I think that's funny that at one point in their timeline, one of them said that about the other. And then later the other one says it back, and neither of them knows about this, but they're always like, yeah, what's he doing? Well, what's he doing? How'd he get in? They got in the same way in a way too. Neither of them really properly worked their way up into Formula One, but they were good enough to be there once they got there.
No, you're right, because everyone, he bought his way into it. Then everyone's like, oh, he's actually really good. Because he won the championship in 75. He started Formula 3, I think, in 72. And by 75, he won the championship in F1. That's nuts. Yeah, he just wasn't patient for that. And I like, neither of them were patient. They didn't, what am I trying to say here? They're both so good that they didn't feel like they needed to go through the traditional channels that most people had to.
Right, they were hungry for it now.
Yeah, and they were good enough for it now.
It was just all their character dynamic, though, was really pleasing to me. Like for all their adversity, almost all the time when, like, in the first half of the movie, almost any time Lauda came up to Hunt, it was to be antagonistic.
Yeah.
But whenever he was approaching Hunt was like, oh, hey, Niki. Like, he didn't realize what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And then Lauda was being antagonistic, right? Hey, you cut me off. That was my turn when Hunt won the race. And he's like, well, oh shit. Well, I guess I made it. So there you go. Or, and he comes over. Oh yeah. All these people, they're not your friends. This is all these people being around you, buying you drinks. This is a sign of disrespect. But every time Lauda would come up in the whole first hour and a little more, it was to be antagonistic. It was because he was annoyed at his success. Yeah. When he would get success. And Hunt was always just, he didn't want Lauda to lose. He just wanted to win. Whereas I think that Lauda maybe wanted to win, but also wanted Hunt to lose. Like, Hunt was the nice one. And, it's like, yeah, he said mean things. He said jerky things, but it was usually the backlash. Like, after he got chewed out by Niki Lauda is when he says, gosh, who was that guy? Yeah, he kind of looks like a rat, doesn't he?
I think in Lauda's mind, I know we never really get the answer. I know, they were roommates together. That they left that out of the movie when they're in F3 years, in their early years, they were roommates.
Oh yeah, that would have thrown off a lot of audiences. Yeah. That would have needed to be like an 8-hour Netflix series for us to swallow it.
Imagine that. But it seems like Lauda also wanted more for Hunt too, and so he was just terrible at, like, when I don't know if this speech is true, but when he said he wanted to get married to that lady, he's like, I'm going to be a pain in the butt, but I might as well be with you because I like you. So maybe he was just terrible at expressing how he actually felt. Like, hey man, like, I know you could be so much more. Does that, like, he got
overly blunt and methodical? No, I see what you mean, and I agree with it, because we see that a lot of times even when he was talking to Hunt, right? Like, he didn't want Hunt to quit racing.
Yep.
And it wasn't because he wanted to beat him in the ensuing year. It was because he said, well, but to validate your win, don't you want people to know this wasn't just a fluke?
Yeah.
It's like, and Hunt he just wants to be happy and live his life. So it happened, that comes up a few times. It's interesting. And even Hunt, when he wins the vote to race in the rain at Nuremberg, right, that Lauda didn't want to, obviously there are good reasons for Hunt to have wanted to race, right? He's behind. Of course, Lauda just simply wins if they cancel that race. So that's all legit. But at the end of it, he even goes by him later, because there was all the heckling earlier in the movie. He says, Niki, sometimes it really does help if people like you. Because Lauda never cared if people liked him. But then when all of a sudden Lauda is lobbying to get a certain result, he shot himself in the foot by being the person who never gives a shit if people like him or not.
Yeah. Live by the sword, die by the sword.
You wanted to be, no, these people fear me. It's a sign of respect. Well, guess what? Now you didn't get that respect when you had a whole room of your fellow racers in the room. And so, like, I feel like they both got a lot of wake-up calls about their own behavior, even though neither of them really ever change. I think that they both gain more self-awareness, even if they weren't changing because of each other.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, Hemsworth probably knew that. Well, actually, Hemsworth I read later on what happened to Hunt's life. He had a pretty gnarly life, man. He got married. So so he married that Susie Miller, and that, like, a few weeks in, it wasn't the day they met. But they actually went to the Swiss Alps to go skiing. That's where she met Richard Burton. And then Richard Burton offered him $1 million to divorce her.
He pulled an indecent proposal?
So yeah, so Burton was still with Elizabeth Taylor at the time, and they got a divorce almost immediately. And then he called up Hunt to discuss the divorce so he could get with Olivia Wilde. And so in real world, he's like, I'll give you $1 million to divorce. And because they were going to do it anyway, he's like, let's just make it easy. And Hunt's like, yeah, of course. That's great. I love it.
Yeah, that wouldn't have played out well in the movie.
No, that'd have been pretty funky.
Again, 8-hour Netflix series. 8-hour Netflix series, do it.
But I do think they did a good job. I was reading this. There's a guy called F1 Fanatic, and I was reading his review of the movie. And also my Uncle Jeff, I mean, he watches almost every F1 race. He knows, Hamilton has been crushing it lately, just destroying people. He knows all the races. He knows what's going on. And they all, even the racers who love racing love this film. And even in the reviews, are like, well, this wasn't in it, that wasn't really true, but this is an hour and 50 movie that you need to pack in almost 3-4 years worth of stuff. And they said it did it excellently. So I thought that was cool. They got their characters right.
Well, and again, sometimes, people say like, well, this didn't happen. But again, if you presented only the absolute truth of what happened in reality, people who don't know the whole stories of these characters and who only have 90 or 120 minutes to get it, they're literally not going to swallow these situations.
Yeah.
Well, because again, that's why I think it's important that people understand that the phrase like this is a screenplay adapted from the lives of these people or adapted from this book. People say, oh, it was different in the book. It's like, yeah, but the book had hours and hours of you reading for its exposition. Pacing didn't matter as much. And now it does. So that it's like they're kind of forced to change things. It's not a bastardization of the integrity of their stories.
Yeah, and I think Peter Morgan did a great job at that.
Oh, God. I don't know anything about writing scripts. I just know how the movie felt. And it felt, I'm going to go out on a limb here, it maybe felt flawless to me. I want to say this movie felt flawless to me.
I mean, I guess my only complaint, and I don't know how else you could change it, right? It just had this, I felt like it had some of the familiar beats of the traditional biopic, which I don't know how you avoid, but you watch some of these movies like Ray or Walk the Line, or you're showing these years of their lives in fragmented scenes in the course of an hour and 50.
Right.
And I guess the familiarity is what is my biggest complaint, but that's not even a complaint. So I don't know how you even make that not so familiar, if you see what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I could never say, Morgan, this is what you should have done. But no, I mean, there's a reason why this is 88% Rotten Tomatoes. It's 8.1 on IMDb. It's in the top 250, which is a major achievement. Any movie over 8 on IMDb is loved.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I mean, this movie's adored. I guess this is one of those where if you're if you're super cynical, you'd have to nitpick here and there or call out the things that weren't true. But then I think you're just doing that to nitpick. But
I think that's ignorant of what's necessary for adapting something to a movie.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. But I got to tell you, man, this writer, he did Frost Nixon, which I think he made.
Oh, I love Frost Nixon.
And he also made a movie called The Damned United he wrote that I loved. And then he also he created The Crown on Netflix, which is one of the most, I mean, it tells the history of The Crown over 80 years. And it's one of the most sumptuous, quickly moving, enthralling shows. So I'll say it. I don't see anything wrong with Rush. I dig it. I think that makes it hard to talk about, but I mean, I don't see anything bad with it. I love this picture. And now that I know more about the making of it, I like it even more. If this was $100 million, I'd like it less. Because then I'd be like, well, they maybe could have avoided some of the trappings, more racing. But when you're 35 million, you're like, holy crap. Yeah. And Daniel Bruhl's the best. I'm not going to say it. I was going to say he rules. That's bad.
He Bruhls.
Oh, brother. How about this? Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk more Rush. Welcome back to Movies, Films, and Flicks. John, Ron Howard draft, now.
Oh, shit.
Wait, you didn't go, you asshole. Hey, so what'd you think about, so while I'm talking about this, if you go on YouTube right now, and you type in Rush, asshole supercut, you get a cut of all of them saying asshole to each other. Can you mimic Lauda in this saying that, John? You could probably do it better than me.
The way the intonation of the accent, like I couldn't I couldn't do it.
He's like, you go to the bar and drink with all these assholes. This makes me laugh. All right, John, pick a number between 1 and 2.
Pick a what?
A number between 1 and 2.
1.5.
Oh, wait, no. I'm sorry. Not between 1 and 2. Jeez Louise. 1 or 2?
1.
All right. I had 2 up, so I picked first. Why, I oughta. I wish I saw your face when you said that joke. That'd have been awesome. All right, so I get to go first. And I am going to pick... Oh, man, this is tough. I'm going to do something stupid here, man. I'm going to take Willow. We covered it on the podcast, so I figured I'd promote it.
So I'm not good enough with Ron Howard trivia, so I did pull up IMDb just so I could see.
Of course, yeah.
I'm going to do Far and Away. I love me some Far and Away. That movie is like just shy of 30 years old now, but man, young viewers, if you haven't seen it, Far and Away.
Would you say it's far and away his best film?
By far and away, it might be one of his best. Well, no, I'm not picking, just to be clear, I'm not picking what I think is his best film. I'm picking my favorite of his films first.
Got it. I'll go Apollo 13.
That was that's his best film. That was my Okay, all right. Here's one that, okay, I'm going with, I don't think this is like his first or second best film by any means, but a movie that totally gives me like the nervous chest tingles when I think of people. You know, you might have been somewhere and you learned someone was a fireman. You think, oh, that sounds like a risky job, and you don't really get it. And a movie that's good at helping you get it is Backdraft, which features our man Kurt Russell.
KR, that's our boy. Man, you picked a Kurt Russell. That's a smart pick, man. There's so many good ones here, though. This is tough. I'm gonna go... You know what? I'll let you have that one since I put you on the spot here. I don't want to take this one from you. I'll do Splash. Why not? Let's have some fun.
Okay, all right, Splash. Wow.
All right, so you get to pick.
You know what? Frost Nixon.
Ooh.
Michael Sheen in that too.
Oh, he's so good.
I saw that. I was never gonna see that movie. I really was never gonna see it. And one day I was just like. I got a bad night's sleep and I was just laying on the couch having like a lazy Sunday movie. And I started watching that and I thought I was going to fall asleep. I was up the whole time. Just like the dialogue in this movie.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. You're going to hate me. I'm going to pick this. Don't hate me. Rush.
That's okay. I mean, I love that movie. I do. I haven't seen it enough time, but he has so many movies that I've seen so many times that have proven the test of time in my soul, like Parenthood. That's my name.
Oh, dang. Parenthood?
Parenthood, Steve Martin.
Oh, geez Louise. That was a good one, John.
And I just saw Steve Martin and Martin Short live.
Oh, yeah.
Their live show. That's the second time I've seen it, too. Those guys, they've gotten older and, well, not they. Steve Martin has gotten older and more mature. Martin Short basically hasn't changed since 1988. But
I read his book, man. I had a great time reading Martin Short's autobiography. I love that book.
Does he still do cocaine? I'll bet he still does cocaine.
Oh, he never mentioned that in the book.
No, I mean, he's got so much energy. He is still like totally wired nuts on the stage now. Even at his current age, it's amazing.
Would it be cynical if I picked A Beautiful Mind?
No.
Because I haven't watched it since it came out, but I'm going to do it. A Beautiful Mind. That won him his Oscar. All right. What's your fifth pick?
It's already my fifth pick. I picked 4?
Yep. Far and Away, Backdraft, Frost Nixon, Parenthood.
God. Okay. All right. Okay. This is, I'm going to pick probably like a less popular choice, but I thought this really nailed a lot of emotional dynamics. Ed TV.
You know, I was going to say that. That was really ahead of its time, wasn't it?
I think so, because people look at that as like not a silly comedy, like a stupid comedy, but it's a silly concept. And it's a comedy, but so like the relationship between McConaughey and Jenna Elfman, the relationship between Woody Harrelson and McConaughey, Alan Arkin, and everything that comes out with like his affair that he had. Like there are so many very like familiar and kind of chest tightening relationship dynamics in there that were hit really well while hitting all the comedy. I really love that movie a lot, and that's a movie that I used to be able to watch like anytime, even though I haven't seen it in a while. So Ed TV, it deserves its credit. I
remember I didn't give that movie a fair shake because I love The Truman Show so much. And I just felt this movie's ripping off Truman Show when in actuality it was not.
Right.
It just, for some reason, 17-year-old me was being super pretentious and just going, I don't like, but I mean, they made that movie in 99, and I know Real World was a thing, but that's 21 years ago, and look where reality TV kind of went, and that kind of thing. I mean, Woody Harrelson, McConaughey, Mick C. All right, so, John, you have a very solid far and away Backdraft, Frostniks, and Parenthood Ed TV. I have Willow, Apollo 13, Splash, Rush, and A Beautiful Mind. And if you want to vote on these, head to Movies, Films, and Flicks Facebook, where we run weird polls and weird tournaments, and just have some fun. We're not too annoying on there. We don't post that much. It's a positive experience on there. I think you'll like the crowd. So if you haven't followed Movies, Films, and Facebook, Movies, Films, and Flicks on Facebook, do that now. That's tough to say, John. Movies, Films, and Flicks Facebook.
By the way, I'm very happy that well, I know I wouldn't, but that we didn't pick any of the Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons.
Oh, those are so bad.
Good.
Do you like any of them?
I'm glad you think that too. I mean, Tom Cruise does well with his. What am I saying? Tom Hanks. Tom Cruise. They feel like bad Tom Cruise movies. Tom Hanks does really well with his role, especially in the first movie. I only made it through halfway of the second one. I can't do these things. Tom Hanks is good at capturing the urgency, but for some reason I could never swallow the pill to accept this plot. And I watched some crazy stuff.
These movies, I hate saying it because I like Ron Howard a lot as a director, but they're not good. Just as far as movies, I don't think they're very good. I don't think Ron Howard likes the material. And I don't know, maybe if they gave him $35 million, it would have been better.
It's occurring to me, neither of us picked The Paper. Maybe if we had 7 choices or 6 choices, one of us would have picked The Paper.
You know what? I remember The Paper, and I don't think I ever watched The Paper.
I think that was Glenn Close and Keaton and Uncle Eddie, Randy Quaid.
Oh, I saw The Paper. I
think he was in it.
I saw the box everywhere I went. I just never picked it up. The Paper, because I gotta know. Oh, there it is. Yeah, Randy Quaid and Duvall. Oh, Robert Duvall. Marissa Tomei. That's a great cast.
Yeah.
Randy Quaid, dude. No, but so what else haven't we covered in this film? Just kind of getting back into it with Rush. I mean, we've talked about.
So you brought up, by the way, the one thing, and this, by the way, was I figured it was the one thing that might not be true when I was watching it before this podcast was the beating up of the reporter. Or let me rephrase. I thought that if James Hunt had beaten up that reporter, it at least wouldn't be verified or something, or it would be dubious, or maybe it never would have been revealed or something. So that was the one thing I kind of questioned. But so let's talk about the accident that got Niki in the hospital, and then his first interview, and just all the things related to his injury, because that is touchy stuff that I think that, they're dropping on the audience, and it's a very big dynamic shift. And I think they did a great job with it, though.
I read something really interesting. We were talking about the tires earlier. That track was a problem because it was wet and dry at the same time. So there were dry parts and there were wet parts. So it was tough to pick which tire to use.
Right.
Which I find these machines are millions upon millions of dollars. And it's just interesting hearing the tire choice make such a difference between that. And, you want to hear something interesting? That chase, that wipeout, an 8-year-old kid filmed it. So they recreated the footage that an 8-year-old shot during that accident in 76.
That's interesting.
Yeah, an 8-year-old had a camera. And then the DP was like, the 8-year-old really had a good sense of framing. So I thought, but I mean, just, you know what I love the most about that scene is the drivers got Niki out. And he was in there for a minute with all that stuff. But I love that the drivers did it. Like, that shows the camaraderie.
That was intense, too, though, right? So that scene, like, a driver goes and he's trying to help. And even though he's, like, running not just into the burning building, if you will, he's running into the fire. He is reaching into the fire to try and help Lauda with his seatbelt buckle that was like jammed or something, or who knows, right? So you are reaching into the fire, and at some point it's too much for him and he has to back up. And I totally understand that, right? I totally get it. But like, Lauda is there watching him then back up.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just like, holy crap. Like, I'm watching someone burn, and it made me think of that scene in Final Destination 2 opening scene when the guy is trapped in his burning car. And that was like the one scene where I truly, like my gorehoundness went out the window and I had a little sympathy for the character who was suffering. And I'm like, whoa. So like him just sitting there burning in a car, like we say we can't imagine things, couldn't even come close to imagining.
Part of you is thankful that this man risked his life to get into a fire to get you out. And then you're like, wait, where are you going? But then you're also like, well, he did go into the fire to do that for me. But after a minute, they got him out. I mean, so even though people were afraid of him or didn't like him, that touched me that the drivers look out for each other like that.
But I feel like too, though, yes, that, but I think that they all know the risks that they're taking.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like I could hate you. I could hate you and not even respect you, but holy shit, like get him out. Like, you just stop. My race is done. We got to get him out of there. Like that's, if you're in a situation like that, I feel it's almost like, not that I have any experience with it, but I feel like it's almost like being a soldier overseas in a war zone. You might hate this dude in the bunk who's been sleeping across from you all this time, but he just got shot in the ass, and you're going to throw him over your shoulder Forrest Gump style and run him out of there. Right? Like you're going to risk yourself and do that. But no, that was an intense scene. And the other thing about that scene, I was talking earlier about the risks all these drivers take. So Lauda's car wipes out and catches on fire. And then right after that, another car careens into it, right? So it's like you can be doing everything perfect, but if someone has an accident in front of you, you just ended up in the danger zone. I mean, just so risky. But yeah, that scene was brutal, and Hunt looked rattled.
Yeah, I mean, because like you said, they had that antagonistic but also a slight brother type vibe or sibling vibe, or like brothers and siblings are the same thing. Close friend vibe. Yeah, no, like Hemsworth pulled that off really well. And then I liked when they pulled him out, they said that Lauda was talking to him. And Lauda asked one of the guys who got him out of the car, like, how's my face? And the guy's like, yeah, you look great. That's what the guy said to him on there. So I thought that was pretty interesting as well. But I also like the speech. Well, no, we're jumping ahead. But the recovery, just to watch him put that helmet back on.
Like the helmet when they're vacuuming the lungs and you see him, it looks like they're intubating him, right? While he's conscious. And they even said before, because I don't have a mindset of what this is, they're like, it's going to bruise your lungs up pretty bad. I'm like, whoa, bruise your lungs up? So they're like pulling all this like scar tissue that's blackened with like soot out of him. And the doctor's like, okay, we'll try again in a couple days. And he's like, do it again.
Yeah.
Like because he's got the race on in the background and he's literally physically suffering, and his eyes are just like angling over to see that TV, like Hunt wins again. Like that was cool.
He's just in the hospital bed annoyed.
I do say there was a part that had me a little emotionally conflicted, although I understand the mindset when he's trying to put the helmet on.
Oh,
and his wife comes in and he says like, if you love me, you won't say anything. And when he said that though, I'm like, I understand, but that is not fair to say to someone you love.
I did not like that line either.
Right. Because I'm like, that is not fair. What does that do to that poor woman? Right. Like
he kind of took, and it's interesting. I guess one of the complaints too is, Olivia Wilde, her character had kind of not much of a role in his life, but when she was a big presence in the marketing, she was basically a nothing character for this. And then you had his wife, Niki Lauda's wife. I mean, in the beginning, she seems to be this really cool, free-spirited, lively woman, who gets what she wants. And then it just becomes Lauda going, you're going to hate me and I'm going to do this. So just deal with it. I guess that's kind of one of the treatments that wasn't too great. And they stayed together for a while, but they got divorced in 91.
That's a long time then. Yeah.
And then he remarried and got twins, and then he died at 70.
Yeah, that whole recovery though, and that's. I'm sorry, you go ahead.
Oh no, but that accident, that really, that damaged him for the rest of his life with his lungs. Like he obviously survived, and he won another championship after that. So he won a total of 3. Hunt only won 1 F1 championship, so he still was able to race. But yeah, he had problems with his internal organs for the rest of his life.
God, I couldn't imagine.
And he also started an airline called Lauda Air.
As in a lot of air, because you're high. A lot of air.
Lauda Air, lot of mercy. Yeah, so but yeah, I mean that was a rough scene. But you're right about that line. I don't know, that that seemed like a very...
That seemed cliche.
Better than that, right? Yeah.
It almost seemed cliche, and it didn't seem fair either. Yeah, I didn't. But I get it. I do get it. I can see that guy saying that to her in that situation. I can see it. But that doesn't mean that I want to see it in the movie.
I guess it could have been more eloquently handled, because that kind of felt like a sledgehammer to crack a nut when he said that to her. He could have they could have had a wordless scene, or like he could have looked at her with a sense of, I know this is insane. Does that make
just
sense?
Just like a look, like I need this, or it's like I need you, but I need this too. I don't know, something. I don't know. But yes, I'm totally with you. We're just word vomiting, trying to find the alternative. But I mean, maybe there's not a good alternative. That's such a tough scene anyway, right? Like,
yeah.
Yes, and then we do roll into what you wanted to get to, though. Like, he's going to show up to the race for the next race, and Hunt sees him.
Yeah, I love that discussion that they have. I like that he's like, I was chasing him like an asshole. Isn't that what he said?
Yeah.
In the beginning of the film?
Yeah.
And then he's like, it partly was your fault. But then we know the risk. Like, I like that discussion they had. That was a good scene. These two like each other, and you could tell it.
Well, and the thing is that even though that's the thing where, like, I don't think it's totally fair of Lauda to say that it was your fault, because Lauda could have not raced.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, but like you said, he brings it about, though. He says, it was, partly your fault. But if you were responsible for getting me, for that, you were equally responsible for getting me back in the car. And even though some people might not like that risk that he's taking, the thing is that to Lauda, that is a huge thing. And he wanted to get back in that car. And maybe he's saying that had it not been for you, I might not have been able to get back in that car. Mm-hmm. That was his, you redrove me. You reignited me yet again. The way he's talking, it's not about revenge. It's just about his drive to be a great racer. He wants to be in that headline. He wants to prove himself.
And I think that really helps people as far as their legacies are concerned. So let's say Lauda wins 74, 75, 76, 77. Everyone, his legacy would be set. Everyone would know him as one of the greatest F1 racers ever. But this rivalry took them to the next level, these two guys. And I think that also added to his mystique as well. Would you say, just having a rivalry?
Dude, if Rocky never lost a fight, we wouldn't have sat through 8 Rocky movies.
Yes, right. I love, you have Bjorn Borg versus John McEnroe, which, that amazing rivalry. Then you have Federer, Nadal. I think that almost helps you when you have that person who's your equal. And that probably drives you further. Otherwise, you're just, did Jordan ever have during his NBA final runs, there was never a team or a player that, everyone, Isaiah was great, but Jordan was the player, I would say. So he never had anybody who was his equal, but his legacy's not in doubt. But there's no Jordan versus. There's no Magic versus Larry Bird. Does that make sense?
Right. It's always the Bulls versus. It's just that Jordan is leading the charge.
Yeah. And I love these documentaries about Magic Johnson versus Bird and all these different things. Well, I like that he said, you're responsible for getting me back in the car. And then I thought that was pretty interesting that when he comes back, he doesn't even finish the race. And what really happened is visor was fogging up. It was raining. It was dangerous. He's like, it's not worth it. So in the movie, they kind of make you believe that it was for his wife. And that partly was because of that. But yeah, he got out of his car, John. Ferrari owns this car, and he just leaves the race. And he caught a ton of crap for it. Like, people called him a coward. There's a lot of negative press, which is insane because he had just gotten back from a massive accident. And then he came back the next year and won it. But it's pretty interesting that people were calling him a coward for pulling out of the race.
He had a different view on life, I think, when he almost lost his.
It's kind of crazy. So he came back. He went Ferrari one more year, got in a big fight with Ferrari, came back and got a McLaren, which is what Hemsworth drove, and won it again in 74. That dude could drive, man. Jeez Louise. Maniac. You and I need to get some, Mini Coopers, John, and go down to St. Pete when they do their F3, their IndyCar racing, and just drive around that.
That sounds a little dangerous. I'm more the go-kart. Go-kart is my risk level, I think.
What if we got 20 go-karts and a bunch of MFF contributors and we did that race in St. Pete?
I think I'd lose though, because mine, like the undercarriage would be dragging on the ground because I'm heavy.
No one would be behind you. You could get out in front because the sparks would be flying out. Man, I'm not that competitive.
I'd need a special one. I'd need a lift kit and bigger tires.
You'd have the Koopa car in Mario Kart.
That's right. That's what I'd need.
But no, and then that race goes through. He kind of pulls out, and then I guess I jumped ahead of the press conference too. But how? I see reporters asking that question because the reporter did say that. Like, what does your wife think about your face?
But the fact that he kept nagging on that question, he said Lauda gave an answer, it was a good defensive answer, a good tactically defensive answer. And then he's like, no, Lauda, you didn't answer the question. Like, do you think your marriage can survive? Like he kind of gnawed on that. That was mean.
Yeah, he kept going, and then he got the living daylights. So, after I read an article where a journalist was complaining about this film, saying that the movie heavily relies on newspaper reports and the news, and the movie relies on journalism. But then a journalist gets a living daylights beat out of him in a bathroom, and
because he was a bad person.
Yeah, and I kind of thought, well, maybe this guy has a point. But then I started looking into Hunt's fistfights, and I'm like, oh, Hunt probably would have kicked his ass. He had no problem about punching people, Hunt. So I don't see why he wouldn't have a problem punching another dude. I'm not saying I'm not condoning it, but it's more believable watching his exploits on the side of the road, knocking people out. Hunt had a temper. I kind of like that. Some guy posted a video on YouTube saying that it was the 15 seconds that made his father famous because he got punched out by Hunt. Man, these guys were young too. These guys were in their 20s. So I guess you can't expect them to be that. So Lauda was really ahead of his time. As far as maturity, would you say?
Sure.
And then Hunt, but you know what scene I did like in this film where they're showing Hunt thinking about the track and knowing exactly when to
make the turns, like he was imagining it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that was smart, and also in the beginning of the race I thought was really smart too, because you don't see this much later, but the beginning of the race really establishes the shifting, the driving, the track, so then you don't really see it again. But you know what it looks like because you saw it in the first 5 minutes. I thought that was another smart budgetary shot, because the more shots you have inside the car, the more money you have to spend because you're shooting more, and that's more time. So I thought that was pretty interesting too, that they focused mostly on that in the first 5 minutes, which I mean, that's a good thing to teach in film school. If you don't have a budget, get everything out of the way first, explain it all, then you don't have to for the rest of the movie.
Right.
But no, I mean, no, I love this. Like, this is a good way to start our racing pod. And we're doing what? Days of Thunder next? Or Driven?
Driven.
Oh my gosh.
Driven. And you know what? I'm not saying that Rush stole from Driven, but I am saying that Driven came out way earlier, and it also had those scenes where you're imagining and doing your shifting just sitting there on the living room floor.
And doesn't he start humming?
That's what Sylvester Stallone does while he's racing.
Yeah.
You know what? I never saw Lauda pull a hard turn and get a dime stuck in his tire.
Wait, do you think Driven stole from Cool Runnings then? Because there's a scene where they're in a bathtub.
Right, and they're imagining the turns.
Yep.
Dude, Cool Runnings could be the mother of all race car movies.
Wow. It influenced everything.
That was really cute when they did that too in that movie, when they were imagining the turns and they all lean.
Hey, you dead? No, man, not dead. That's one of my favorites, man. I love that picture. No, anything else you want to cover on this movie?
This movie didn't quite give me like the chest tingles of emotional intensity, but it definitely had me emotionally invested since the very first moment, if you will, when he's saying, did he change duets? Like even the first time I saw this, I was all in right away. They set the emotional tone for me, and then they held fast. And I'll also say, I mean, whatever, it's a Ron Howard movie, but there weren't 60 seconds where I was bored.
No.
I might not have been thrilled. Yeah. I might not have been thrilled during the divorce discussion scene in the restaurant with Olivia Wilde and Chris Hemsworth, but I understood it, and it was telling a story, and it was well done what they did, even though I'm not thrilled with those kinds of scenes. But still, like, there was not a slow minute in this movie, unless you refer to that. And even then, it's a minute. This movie kept me going the whole time with their interpersonal repartee between Lauda and Hunt. And I have a respect for Formula One that I never would have had just because of this movie.
Yeah, I would say that there aren't too many 2-hour movies that go by that fast. This movie moves, and it doesn't feel like that long of a picture.
Right.
It just it's great breezy. I mean, Daniel Bruhl should have been nominated. Let's get it retroactive, John. Let's start a petition. Nominate.
Do you think if he had a couple more movies under his belt, maybe he would have been? Maybe that was part of it.
Yeah, because remember this movie had a ton of Oscar buzz when it first came out. It was at the Toronto International Film Festival, and people were calling it a Best Picture film. And then it kind of slowly backed away from all that. But man, let's do it, John. Let's go into a time machine. Let's get Bruhl a couple roles earlier, and let's get him nominated. What do you think?
Does that mean that we're gonna steal the Oscar from someone else who won it in 2013?
Well, we'll get him nominated, and we'll take the nomination away from someone that had already been nominated before.
There you go. Okay, we're gonna have a fictitious James Hunt, a fictionalized James Hunt, go beat the crap out of somebody.
So instead of 3-time nominee someone, it's 2-time nominee, but they're still nominated twice. We're not.
Yes.
And he's not winning. He's just nominated.
Right.
So now we can have Oscar nominee Daniel Bruhl.
Done. I mean, to say that he was clearly deserving is like an understatement. Like, yeah, that was a wowing role.
How long would it take you to build a time machine, John?
Well, I mean, technically none, right? Because right after I build it, I'm probably just going back a little bit. I can take as long as I want.
Oh, wow. Because then you could just go back.
Oh, wait, but I'm older no matter what, though. So maybe it does matter. So, okay. So if I dedicate all my life to it, it took Doc quite a while, and Back to the Future. I mean, in a fantasy land, a decade, maybe longer.
What about the guys in Primer? They built that pretty quick.
That was kind of by accident, too. Didn't they kind of like stumble across that? Like they were trying to make this, and then they made that, and then it did this.
Yeah, weren't they trying to make like a new type of cereal? And somehow they got
a low-calorie cornflake.
Yeah, and somehow they got blasted back into the past. And then they started playing the stock market and killing each other.
Besides, I mean, time machines are dangerous. Before you know it, like, I become my own father, like Ethan Hawke.
Yeah. Predestination. We get stuck back in the day with Guy Pearce.
Right.
Time machine brother. No, this was fun, man. Thank you for joining me, dude. This is great. I'm glad we did this. And I'm looking forward to your time machine. So get it done.
All right. Well, you'll get an update when we do lap 2 for Driven.
All right. Sounds good. So for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, for John Levengood, this is Movies, Films, and Flicks. We'll see you next week.